Good morning, Hallowed Haven family. This is After Dawn, the show where we sit down to have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind the Hallowed Haven Studios productions. I'm Saul, and I'm joined by my co-host, Cyan.
Yes, hello, I'm Cyan, and today we're talking about Chilled Office Episode 5, R&D. This episode was quite a doozy with twist villains, spiders coming out of everywhere and going everywhere, and weirdly enough, microwaved pocket shrimp. Honestly, this was a very roller coaster of kind of an episode, and it was really fun. But my opinion is not the only one here. What are your thoughts, Saul?
I actually thought that it was a really fun episode. It had some of the intense, weight and danger that the last episode had, but it was also still actually had a lot more funniness to it as well, especially when it came to one of our current guests. And as we all know, my opinion is also not the only one that matters here. Today we're joined by one of our wonderful players, Tanya, and our friendly, in air quotes, SPC, Lynn. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
What's up?
So first off, welcome back to the show, Tanya, and welcome for, I believe this is the first time that you've ever been here, Lynn.
Yep, first time.
So Tanya's been on the show before, but as Lynn is brand new, and for those of you who decided to tune in for the first time, we start the show by percolating a little bit with questions to our lovely guests about themselves, drink our cups of coffee while discussing the events of the show, and more about the characters, and then we get to spilling the tea, where we get questions from chat, the fans, other players, as well as opening the floor for our current guests to ask each other questions or to ask Cyan and myself questions. Let's start with a question to Lynn. What was it like playing Darius, who was a little bit silly up until he really wasn't?
Fantastic. I don't normally get to play a lot of very silly characters. This server, or I guess the studio as a whole, since the beginning, it was incepted playing World of Darkness, which, like any game, you can have a lot of silly times with it, but it is ultimately a game that normally has very serious themes, and you're touching some pretty deep social topics with it sometimes. So it was a lot of fun just to be able to, chew the scenery, just be silly for once.
I can imagine. Tanya, I have a question for you. What's it like having Frankie be fairly serious after having 3 weeks of shenanigans and hijinks to now shit's hitting the fan, as it were?
Highly disturbing. I don't think Frankie truly has the capacity for that much seriousness. So it's been fun for me, but I'm sure she's been freaking out.
Yeah, I can imagine a win from, I'm just stealing people's pens, to, oh no, I've had to stab a zombie from Amazon in the face.
Exactly.
I have another question for Lynn.
Yeah.
Did you have any say in what Darius was like when you were asked to be an SPC for the show?
We went over some basic mechanics of the game, certain abilities. But for the most part, Scott, the Chill Master, he kind of just through talking, we kind of just agreed that letting me kind of pop off, as it were, would probably be the best. The last SPC I played was a really long time ago. And that would have been Chicago Reborn, ran by Legacy, and I ended up playing the Prince of Chicago. And same with that one. Kind of just always have loved jumping in and just going with what feels right and kind of improving. So that's pretty much what I did for the most part as far as personality went with this character or researcher, and with everything going on, I figured what better than just some weird mad scientist dude who may or may not know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Another question for Tanya. With this week and last week being a lot more about puzzles and investigation and combat, what part of all that is your favorite part about role-playing games?
Well, the combat is interesting in Chill, but I think it's the relationships that you get to build. I was surprised that Leroy was able to get hurt, and then in the most recent one, Al got hurt, and I think Frankie's relationship with both of those people have kind of changed. So not only are things getting more serious, but now she's kind of feeling like she needs to do more, particularly in combat, which is why I kind of started stacking her with some stuff. Like now she has like a knife, and I also gave her like a fighting ability. And so I'm finding it really interesting to like use the more serious points that we're going, the more serious direction that we're going into, and trying to also match that with Frankie's like character and like her arc and how she works with her team.
I always find it fun to just see like how players change their characters to show how they adapt to the situation, as opposed to just having people who are static throughout the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dynamic characters are like the bread and butter, I think, of tabletop. Because you start out with like the bright, bushy-eyed so-and-so who's trying to just find their place in the world, or they have like that stated purpose. And it's really cool seeing even that change over time. Like, oh, I have to avenge my family. You finally get powerful enough to kill the guy who destroyed your family, but then what? I think that's the real fun part.
Yeah, the life through and the life after are really what I enjoy, not just even less so than the life before.
Oh yeah.
Lynn, actually, same question to you. What is your favorite part about role-playing games in general?
My favorite part has always been it's kind of like playing pretend, but with friends, like writing a book, but with friends, or just a general social aspect. I think every game has its certain mechanical thing that's really cool, but I think ultimately it's about getting together with a bunch of people, telling a story, and just having a lot of fun doing that. Because especially I've been on both sides of the table, and I think really, as much as I joke about always being a storyteller or DM, I enjoy it so much for that reason. I have so many ideas on how things could go, and I'll sit there and I'll craft out a whole world and all these people and their personalities. And I may have a general idea where I wanted to go, but there's always a moment where that whole thing changes up, and all it takes is one roll. And that's definitely been probably my favorite aspect, is just how much fun it is getting together with a bunch of people and doing something like that, but also how much it changes, I guess, and you never quite know how it's going to, and you can never really plan for all of it, but it's still super fun anyway.
Yeah, I always found it kind of interesting that the basic image of what a nerd who plays Dungeons and Dragons is someone who doesn't have any friends, which is hilarious because you need a large group of people to play Dungeons and Dragons and other types of games like this.
Oh yeah.
So, Lynn, as you stated before, you previously played Prince Jackson in Chicago Reborn. What would you say is your absolute favorite type of character to play? Because we've seen you be very serious and very, very intimidating and threatening. We've seen you be very silly and kind of like eldritch horror type of character. What's your general bread and butter go-to type of character?
I guess. Well, okay, let's see. As far as SPCs go, I'll play whatever. I'm super down for just trying out stuff and embodying things and seeing where it goes. As a player, though, I typically like to play characters that, one, have obviously some aspect of myself and kind of explore that a little bit. I think we all kind of do that, whether we realize it or not. There's always some tiny part of ourselves in a character, but just like I said, dynamic characters. There has to be a lesson somewhere. If I'm playing a really like hardcore like killer type character, you know, going on a journey of discovering that it's okay to have some softness in you, that it's okay to be into the beauty of the world and things like that, or a character who is like vehemently like pacifist but has a whole lot of street smarts, realizing that, you know, there is a time and place for violence in the world, things like that. You know, characters that learn a lesson, see as much as possible, learn things, are definitely my favorite type of characters, because then there's growth, there's change, and I just love exploring all of that.
I think that's a really good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
I have another question, but this time it's for the both of you. And be honest, what are your guys' thoughts on spiders?
I don't think I had a problem with them until this campaign.
I did my job.
Oh, yeah. Since I made the horrible mistake of putting a spider in my hair. Yeah, no, I actually don't have a problem with spiders, but man, they just kept, especially the back and forth of teasing me about the spider, and now apparently there's just spiders everywhere, and I'm like, oh.
I personally love spiders. I think there's some hardworking dudes. They keep me from having to choke on gnats every time I walk out the door, so I'm a huge fan. Also, just as a kid, I got this huge book. It was like the Scholastic based thing where you got cool fact sheets about animals and bugs and everything like that. So I'd just insert animal here fact. I could probably give it to you just because I've always been into it. So when I got asked like what kind of swarm I wanted, I was like, spiders out the gate. Like, they're so cool. They're really dynamic. Spiders can be super smart. They can survive all temperatures and everything. So I was like, what would be the most annoying thing to deal with? And spiders for sure.
Very fair. Tanya, so were you expecting to have Frankie become such a badass and like grapple with zombies and adding fuel to immolated undead? What was kind of your original vision for her?
No, not really. I mean, I definitely have mentioned this before, but Frankie is definitely a character that relies on her relationships. So she is a character I already knew was going to essentially change, like her motivations were going to change. So she needed to become, you know, a knife throwing badass. She was going to do that if her friends were in danger. I didn't know we were going to be doing that in this campaign, so it's been interesting to see how that has manifest for her. But no, originally, Frankie was just a really good thief, a really great liar, a really good manipulator, which is usually the type of characters I tend to play anyway in most of my other campaigns. And so it's been fun actually to have her see that she can do and like help situations by actually starting to take them a little seriously.
Fair enough. I think we've gone ahead and percolated a good little bit, so I have a more character focused question for Lynn. So when you decided with how you were going to play Darius and help with making Darius, did you see him as always having been a monster, or was that like a more recent occurrence with his mad science shenanigans?
I think kind of a little bit of both, whereas like in the way that he's been exposed and been around so many weird things that he didn't quite realize it at first, but by the time he did, he just saw it as like, well, screw it, this is a opportunity to learn more kind of thing. So I don't want to give away too much because some of it is based on some plot points that our wonderful envoy has not figured out yet. But But hopefully, the smoldering corpse of Darius will give them a good reminder and a good push to continue their investigations.
Yeah, of course. We don't want any spoilers here. So if we ask something that you can't answer, feel free to let us know, and if you want to give us what you can. But yeah, we don't want to give the envoy too much to work with.
No, not at all. It's not as fun. But yeah, for him, I think it's definitely more of a thing where he just touched one too many weird things, and especially now when he was faced with a group of people who were going around killing all the weird things, I think it more so didn't really cross his mind as a character to try to hide it. He just thought they had seen so many weird things that it wouldn't ping in their brain, but unfortunately made a giant misstep, especially the person who was probably the most likely to lay the beat down on him being the one that he was talking to for most of the time. So.
Yeah, being around Alfred the entire time.
Yeah. Well, I figured at that point it's not really much hiding, because first thing he did was try to vibe check him. So I was just like, all right, how silly can I get this before we get things swinging into combat?
So it was a bit of a personal challenge, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, sitting there knowing what I'm capable of and knowing all the things that I could do, I had kind of, I guess, more gone into that and my plans for how I was going to combat them and mess with them and maybe stick around for a couple more sessions. Either waste as much of their time as possible, because, we are working on a time clock, or at least really, really hurt somebody. Which is, again, fun, weird thoughts to have when playing a character, because it's different from what I'm used to, but it was still a lot of fun. So much fun.
Here's a fun question. Was Darius involved with the spiders that caused the dancing sickness and the trauma tango in the previous episodes?
I think, again, it's more just inadvertently him messing with things, especially since he figured that there's a bunch of spiders around him. At least what I saw was he was just testing things out on them, and with how loose his standard of care obviously is in the as you can probably tell from the lab, I wouldn't say no, but it wasn't on purpose.
Don't you hate it when you accidentally set off the trauma tango across the office?
I mean, such is the nature of chaos,
That's true. I have a question for Tanya. Throughout the entirety of everything that's been going on, even with things being as serious as they are, does Frankie still have sticky fingers? Still just picking things up, even with all the shenanigans happening?
Oh yeah, definitely. I know she picked up Alfred took it from her, but she took it back. But when she rummaged through John's desk, she could be helping, but she's in one of the John's office. She has to rummage through all of his things and just grab things. Sometimes
you don't get an opportunity like that. Yeah, you don't get an opportunity like that all the time. So
exactly, she doesn't know when she's going to be able to get back into one of those offices. So, oh yeah, she's still got the sticky fingers. And if she hadn't been so upset and worried about Al when they were in the lab, when she was doing her round, she definitely would have. I think she did, because she does it almost automatically, but just pick up things of interest, as I say usually, and that usually means that she's just stealing things.
Interesting things, though.
Of course, always interesting.
Yeah, no, like just little knickknacks. We gotta pick up the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Cyan, do you have another question?
Oh, let's see. So you talked a bit about like all the animal facts that you know earlier. You mind sharing some more with us?
Give me an animal.
Dolphin.
So this is actually a pretty commonly known one about dolphins. They like to they're kind of bullies to a lot of their friends in the animal kingdom, but specifically the pufferfish. They are one of the few other species outside of like primates or things that are our cousins that we know actually like to recreationally do drugs. Essentially, they'll mess with pufferfish a lot and get them all riled up so that they can partake of their neurotoxin, which doesn't do anything to them other than get them stupid high. Dolphins are kind of assholes.
Well, that I kind of knew. The pufferfish thing, though, I didn't.
Yeah, I knew there were jerks, but that's brand new to me. That's awesome, actually.
Oh yeah. Yep, it's a sight to see because they'll kind of play, especially if there's more than one dolphin, they'll kind of play catch with this like highly toxic fish, which is really interesting.
So the fish is just like, come on, guys, please let me alone.
Like, please stop. Like, just eat me already if you're gonna try it. But no, they never even do that. They also like certain. It depends, I think, but from what I could recall, they don't even really like to eat pufferfish. They just like messing with them.
I was wondering about like all those spider effects. Like, where the hell is he getting all these? Is he just like really like go deep into a wiki dive? Or no, it's just off the cuff. Okay.
Yep, that I have a lot of shark facts too.
Oh God, what if you had chosen shark? Yikes!
Oh God, that would have been terrible. I don't know where I would have kept them, but that's one you do like the once, and then you're good.
It's very true.
But yeah, mostly I just like reading random facts. If I could fill my head with useful information in the spot where I keep all of my song lyrics and random facts, I'd be unstoppable.
Too powerful for this world.
Oh yeah.
I have another question for Tanya. What does Frankie hope to get out of saving the office, aside from, wanting to maybe save her job and make sure that that the rest of the envoy is perfectly fine? Does she have any like end goal for all of this?
I don't think she's trying to save the office. I think if Amy decided to burn it down tomorrow, she'd be like, all right, I'll get the marshmallows. And then, because she already had a job, and I'm using that word loosely, she already has a career that she can always go back to. So no, for her, she's saving the people who want to save the office. But I think if at any point the team was like, well, we tried, let's give up, she'd be like, all right.
It's very pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I have another question for Lynn. Was Darius actually trying to waste time, or was he actually trying to do any of those tests on Alfred, or was that just literally to keep him busy and then maybe, I don't know, snap his neck or something while the others were elsewhere?
A little bit of both. I think he was trying to figure out the best way to get what he wants, which is mainly knowledge. I think that would have been his major motivation for going into all the weird stuff that he did. Despite the fact that, Save's whole thing is to keep the weird stuff contained, and get rid of it. So for him, also too, the labs are boring. So having people and being able to show them all the things and just wax scientific, as it were, it was great for him. Although the whole dying thing kind of put a damper on that one, so.
Yeah, I imagine that would kind of be a killjoy, yeah.
But, the whole weird extra-dimensional creature that's inside of a person, being able to mess with that was his thing for sure. Keeping people away so he could do his work while still having enough social interaction. It's a balancing act. It's a balancing act for us scientists.
Well, I, for one, was thoroughly entertained by the whole thing. So I do have another question for Tanya, though. How worried was Frankie when she saw Alfred pass out after picking up the phone earlier in their day?
Interesting question, because I think she was probably about as worried when they found Leroy. Like, I think she kind of gets stunned with, worry and anxiety when things like that happen, particularly now that I've like played her for a little bit, particularly with Alfred. And so I think when she suggested that, she was not even suggested, she was like, I'm going to go get the phone just in case the phone is important. I'm going to come back here because this doctor is insane. I definitely think it was nice for Amy and Kayla to be like, okay, well, we'll figure something out. We'll go with you. We picked up Becker because she definitely would have done it herself. I think she becomes a little reckless. And I just kind of played that off the cuff. So I think in the moment, she really became much more worried for Alfred than even I thought she would be.
Interesting. So does Frankie want to try to figure out what is going on with all of the stuff that's happening in the office, or just focusing on trying to get the office safe from their influence and all the stuff they're doing there?
Probably neither. When Frankie is probably the most selfish person you could meet when it comes to the job in the office. I think the only reason she's still there is because she knows that her team needs her and the people that are there need her. But I think if it came down to it, she's not the type of person who would put her life on the line for the office. She would make sure that people she cared about was out of the way of danger and harm, but she wouldn't step in that place.
Okay.
Fair enough. I think that we have gone ahead and enjoyed our cups a little bit here, so I think it is time to begin the segment of spilling the tea. This section is a little more freeform. Questions are generally tailored to a little bit towards the what the fuck moments of the episode, any sort of controversies, rumors, hints of love interests, just generally all kinds of things. In this section, we also will go ahead and invite the guests to ask each other any hard questions they may have, or to ask us as the interviewers. To kick us off, I have a question for Tanya. Was Frankie just looking for any kind of excuse to get the chance to murder John Rouge, or was that just wanting to kill the extra-dimensional being? Because she has had to deal with him as a boss for a while now.
Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, this genre, I think when Scott introduced John at first, she was in love with that version of him, super cheery. She was she found it funny, but that was before everything kicked off. Now, that people have gotten hurt that she cares about. Now he's not funny. It's when you're funny and then you're just suddenly not. And now she's like, I can barely stand you because I know that you're more dangerous than I originally thought. And so, yeah, even just being in his presence, she was like, I think we should just get rid of him. And they're like, no, we need to keep him. Okay, I disagree, but
if you say so.
Outvoted. Yeah, if you say so.
Speaking of murder, Lynn, was Darius trying to get Alfred killed, or just draw the other out from inside him?
More the second one. If it ended up killing him, he was kind of not too worried about either. Again, his whole thing was knowledge, so whatever he could figure out in the process of that, no matter what it kind of cost, he was okay with that eventuality. I think, especially seeing as his whole thing has been means to an end. You know, he casually mentioned Tim, who is probably still wandering or shambling around somewhere. He wasn't all too worried for sure.
Poor Tim.
Yep. Hopefully, who knows? Tim might still be alive.
That also makes me think of the quote, "Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice that I am willing to make."
For sure. The Lord Farquaad of science.
I still love that the whole reasoning behind his name is they just wanted to find a way to get away with saying fuckwad.
Did not know that.
Yeah. I have another question for Lynn. Were you expecting Darius to die, or did you have like an escape plan to make him like a consistent threat?
Honestly, I had no idea what was gonna happen. Just because, well, for one, I don't know too much about Chill. This is the first time me really hearing about it, let alone playing it. So I was just kind of excited to see where it went. If it ended up how it ended up here was kind of a Monster of the Week thing, that would have been cool. If it would have been a twist down the road, it would have been fun. I was just excited to get in there. Especially just watching this group has been a lot of fun. So getting to interact with all these characters after, hearing all the sessions prior was just great. It was everything I hoped for. I got all the reactions I'd wanted.
Fair enough. So you just got what you needed, and you were good to dip out. Fair enough.
Oh yeah, I got to be silly. That was all I wanted. I wanted to kind of lean into the comedy portion of the horror comedy, and especially just the reveal of him being a weird husky Spider-Man was a lot of fun.
Technically, he was then Spider's Man, the swarm of spiders. The swarm of spiders that ate Peter Parker and assumed they were Peter Parker.
Ah, yes. Very Dr. Bees.
Oh, God, Dr. Bees!
Bee?
Nothing more BEs can't fix.
Indeed.
I have another question for Tanya. So could you see Frankie leaving any of her friends behind if it meant, she got to keep living?
No.
So hyper selfish up to the point of her allies. Fair enough.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean,
I was just gonna say, so there is honor among thieves.
Hey.
Oh my goodness.
Damn it, Cyan.
Yeah, Frankie's I would say complicated, but she's really not. She's kind of the opposite. I think if you know her, you know. But if you don't know her, I think if you don't know her, I think she comes off a certain way, but I think she shows her true self to her team, particularly Alfred.
So do you think she's more about like the tribe than like the ideals kind of person?
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. So speaking of Frankie and the group, what does Frankie think of the group as a whole? We know how she sees Al, and how she's constantly calling Kayla whenever she wasn't there. But what does she think more about just the group as a whole and about like Amy?
Oh, I mean, I guess if you like looked at them as a well-oiled machine, which I truly think she believes they are. And I think that comes from when they work in the field, which we don't get to explore in this campaign, but we did in the previous one that we did, where we went out into the field. And you can kind of see that their dynamic is fairly the same, but even like more obvious, that like Amy and Al are like the leaders. Like they're the people that go, ahead. They usually make the plans. They're the ones that do most of the talking. So like that's how she kind of sees them. So we could, if we were going to go with the analogy of family, that'd be mom and dad. And then Kayla is clearly the accomplice to Frankie, who is assuredly the youngest child in the family, who kind of gets away with murder.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So yeah, and I think that's how Frankie sees it. He does see them as a family. Because I don't know, I think I made a comment maybe 2 episodes ago where someone asked what she did, like when she got home, and I said something like, I mean, she stays up until like 3 a.m., like, surfing the internet. Maybe she goes for a run, and she goes to a run through like a nice neighborhood, and she'll like, grab, again, things of interest if she's feeling like it. And then she'll like go to bed for like 2 hours and then wake up and come into the office early. I think that I was trying to imply that Frankie really doesn't have like friends or relationships or anything else outside of work, because she's also a really popular thief. So she kind of can't be close to anybody in the real world, like outside of Save. So I do think that her envoy is her family.
It's very sweet and a little bit sad.
Mm-hmm.
Does Frankie have a thing she specifically likes? Like, is she a shiny things kind of person, or
she's if it doesn't belong to her, it looks nice.
Frankie kind of reminds me of a John Mulaney bit about someone who took like really old photos because they're the one thing that people can't replace.
Oh wow.
Savage.
Yeah, a little bit.
I like it.
So another question for Tanya. Would Frankie feel bad if she got Phil fired because of her shenanigans?
Oh, I actually did feel really bad. And sometimes I have to remember that I'm not Frankie, but Frankie can be brutal. So when I saw Phil about to get fired, I was like, oh, I actually feel bad about this. Didn't want him to get fired. So yeah, I think because things have gotten a little serious, particularly since her interactions with Karen have kind of showed her that she can get away with, anything with her team, but she can't get away with anything, with Karen, it seems. So I think she was actually mainly worried that he was talking to Karen. Because Frankie's not afraid of Karen, but she realizes that she can't manipulate her like she can everybody else to get away with stuff. So I don't think she would have been able to get Phil off the hook. Even though that was the plan. Her plan was not necessarily to like save him, but to see if like maybe he was getting his, papers that day. Maybe she could like sabotage, something, or show up and do something to make sure that hopefully he doesn't get fired. But
solely to save her own skin if he starts blabbing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely savage.
I know, especially since she also was encouraging Leroy to steal his keys. So it became real bad for Phil.
It's just a chain reaction of shenanigans.
Yeah.
Hey, we friends right up until it's time for me to possibly not be making that money no more. Then then it's different. Then we got to figure some stuff out.
Then you can have a little corporate sabotage as a treat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, do you two possibly have any questions for each other, or do you possibly have questions for us, or maybe even questions for your other fellow Envoy members, or for Karen, because we're going to be speaking with Karen soon.
I don't know if this is a question, but I will say that out of all of the episodes we've done so far, there's 2 instances, and both of those people are people that, Lynn, who's here, and then Karen. Both of them kind of did something that made me physically ill. When I mean me, I mean Frankie. And the first was the flip-flops with heels. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely no. And the second was when you, first of all, however you're going to eat your shrimp is your business, but the fact that you fed Alfred the shrimp, and then I don't know if I heard this right, but I could have sworn that when we came in, you said that you put it in your pocket.
Yep. Yep.
This absolutely.
Yes. Microwave pocket shrimp.
Yeah, just barely cooked microwave pocket shrimp.
Frankie literally was like recoiling. She was like, "What did I just see?" And then she was like, you didn't eat that shrimp, right? You didn't eat that microwave pocket shrimp."
Not because it was poison or anything, but because it was microwave pocket shrimp.
Yes. He put it in his pocket. No, you don't eat anything from this doctor.
To be fair, he is a doctor.
Is he?
He is. It is just a matter of if he could legally practice or not.
Okay.
So where is he licensed to practice?
In the specific room he died in.
Oh my gosh.
He found the medical license in a Cracker Jack box.
Hey, he had to surf around the dark web for a long time, all right?
Oh my gosh.
So, I actually did have a question, and I like asking this question quite a bit. A lot of people may not know, but I am one of the co-founders of Hallowed Haven. I have been in and out, normally kind of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, but ultimately our main thing starting out was always building a community. There tends to be a lot of spots in the TTRPG space where things get a little weird, a little testy, and you have, kind of your general perception of folks who enjoy this hobby. We kind of wanted to see if we couldn't move away from that and build more of just a strong base that everybody can feel comfortable in. Nobody feels really judged for what they like or what they don't like. And this is kind of a question for everybody. What do you all think is either missing or wrong? What's kind of got the vibes off about the tabletop space, and what do you think we could do to fix it?
Ooh, damn, hitting us with a heavy question. I suppose this is the second for it. Well, I mean, aside from everything that's going on the corporate side of certain games, yeah, no kidding. For me, it's more of just the way that some people, in my opinion, some people act, where it's just like, my system is the best, and if anyone says otherwise, I can't be friends with them, and they're wrong and dumb. Because even when it comes to like Dungeons and Dragons with each different edition, like the old guard will be like, no, the earlier editions were the best because they were role playing and you really had to work for it. And the people in the new editions were like, yeah, but we also didn't want to feel like we were going to lose so many months of our lives because someone died because of one bad roll. Or if they were playing a wizard and they had like 3 hit points because you had to roll a d4 hit die for every level in the earlier editions.
Yep. No, I agree. I think if you're playing a game and you're having fun with friends and you're getting what you want out of it, which ultimately should be fun, I don't see why one thing is better or worse than the other. It's just about what works for people. That being said, I'm never going to play fucking Pathfinder, but...
Yikes. Unfortunate. I like Pathfinder. Well, I like Pathfinder 2nd edition. 1st edition has way too much going on.
See, I've heard that. I wouldn't be close to trying it out, but I'm not gonna go shit on somebody if that's their favorite system. It's just not, not necessarily something that's my favorite.
Absolutely fair. What about you, Cyan? What do you think?
How do I make a tabletop role-playing community better, like in general?
Like, what are some problems that you've seen? Have you dealt with anything weird, off? Like,
I mean, yeah, all the time. That's kind of just what it's like being a woman in this hobby, but at the same time, not here. So, I mean, specifically problems for here? I don't know. I feel like there's not enough stuff coming out all the time. That's my only complaint.
Needs more nerddom.
Give me more. I am goblin grabby hands.
And the question is, of course, also open to you, Tanya. What are your thoughts?
Oh, how can you make a? I don't know. I do think that the way that you guys have the server like set up and the way that people can engage in the community is fairly unique. I'm in a good amount of servers, maybe too many, but and I would say they all do it very, very differently. And one of the reasons why I continue to like coming back to this server and seeing what you guys are playing is because I feel like you have really good, DMs and GMs and storytellers that also play games that aren't as mainstream. And I like playing many different systems just because I think that's fun in itself. Getting to learn something new. And then play, a different character, a different system. So I really enjoy that about here. I don't know if I would have any suggestions, honestly, because I don't have anything I would probably compare you guys to in terms of another server. So
I think the one thing we all really wanted starting out was kind of that vibe for it to be a little different than what people are probably used to. Me, BP and Legacy have all really done that slog of like trying to find a place, trying to find a server or a group of people to be around and to really find that sense of community and find an enjoyable time. And it was always rough running into certain spaces where for me, my main thing has always been there's not too many people that look like me playing RPGs, And so I wanted to create a space where that could be comfortable, or where people could see that like not all of us are the stereotype for the people that play tabletop games. A lot of us have day jobs. We got a pretty decent like veteran presence in the server. We have quite a few like different types of people, and that's what I like. I also, one thing that I've always really had a problem with kind of in the tabletop community at large is that certain figures get deified pretty hard. And so there's you're either one of those faces or one of those names, or you're kind of just a person generally playing games. And I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't think anybody on the staff wants that. We all want to create a space where it's all about the fun, all about the games. Nobody has to worry about any of the things you normally have to worry about in these other spaces. And I don't know, that it's good to hear that we are doing a good job at that. And you know, not just here, but you know, in general, I think hobbies are fun. But if we're not kind of looking at how we can improve the time that people have and improve the accessibility to certain things and in the space for that for people, you know, it's kind of a point at the end of the day. At the end of the day, yeah, it's games, but I think, you know, we're all kind of called and tasked as people to make our little corner of the world a little bit better. And if I can do that by just like making a safe spot for people to come and pretend to be folks and roll dice, then hell yeah, that makes me happy.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that this is a community that should be open and accessible to everyone, to be able to explore and enjoy time with one another and just enjoy being able to play pretend. It's just at the heart of it all. It's just adults being able to play pretend like they did when they were kids.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little
Facts.
more structure. Yeah, maybe a little more structure given there are dice and rules and everything. But that's all rule of cool and just everyone having fun is what comes first.
Oh yeah.
Correct.
And I think that is a fantastic note to end off of. So thank you all so much for listening in. These episodes are dropped Thursdays at noon for the $5 plus tier. They're released for the public 1 month later. So think about subscribing so you can keep up to date with your top news for Hallowed Haven Studios. I'm Sol. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.